Hey, did you know that in 2022 in the U.S. alone, there were over 748 hazmat incidences that could have been prevented with better training?
Yep. Training with us gives your members tens or even hundreds of thousands of hours of experience that we and our team have, making you better, uniquely made for your people to use the best equipment and techniques out there.
Start your transformation of your team in just 3 easy steps. Schedule a call, customize your training plan, and then begin the best in-class training available.
So why risk choosing instructors who have only theoretical knowledge? Don't settle. Your team's competence and honor is at stake.
Secure your spot now. Our training slots legitimately for the upcoming quarter are almost booked. Act now to ensure your team is not left behind.
So train differently. Head to the hazmatguys.com/hire us and get your appointment and begin your transformation today. Hello, Mike. How are you?
Hey, good, Bob. How are you today?
Doing great. We're doing a back-to-back episode. If you listened to last week's, we're still sitting in the same chairs doing the same episode. So
same episode, same shirts, same cough,
shirts.
Same cough button not applied.
Yes. Oh, I had to check for that. Thank God.
Yeah, make sure. All right. So we got some really cool stuff that's coming up in the future. The After Action Report on Wednesday, June 5th at 19:30 hours New York time is with Mike Hildebrand, which if you don't know who he is or if his name sounds slightly familiar, go up and pick up pretty much any hazmat book that's ever been made, with the exception of ours. And his name will be plastered down at the bottom of it. So definitely an integral part of how we do hazmat today. Interested in talking with him live format. It'll be broken down into podcast size for audio and video. And we don't know who the next guest is yet, right?
Actually, I think I might have just met the guy at Cold Zone, so I have to vet him a little bit, but yes.
Ooh, this is the first I'm hearing of it too.
Yeah.
All right.
So
love these ones because they are live. They are cool format. If you want to, right, you could bring to the table questions. So, you know, if you want to kind of corner him, now's the spot to do it. Also, we love pictures. So if anybody's got any pictures that they would like shared with the Mike Hildebrand interview, by all means, reach out to us. What else we got going on?
We got the battery destroyers that's coming up very soon. We're just putting the wheels on that guy, 3 and 4, maybe even 5, I'm hearing. The new website is up, smooth and refined. And I let it go last week that the app is almost done. And the HMAF and swag, we have a completely new store, which you can go to hmaf.pro to shoot straight into the swag store. And it's pretty good. And then when you're listening to this, we'll be wrapping up in Oklahoma. We have South Carolina, Baltimore, Utah, continuing challenge, Pennsylvania, Virginia, and that wraps up, I believe, the year as of now. But we have like maybe 2 or 3 more that we possibly might be going to by the end of the year.
It's a lot. So you have plenty of opportunities to find Bob and buy him a drink, as you should.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I will be carrying around a couple of free HMAF shirts. So if you do a trick or tell me a joke that I laugh at, you don't just get one. In Cold Zone, they just assumed I was going to be handing them out because I was there. And it's like, that's not a thing. You gotta
that's not how it
do
works.
Do something cool, and I'll give you a cool new shirt.
You have to earn it.
Yeah, come on. You're better than that.
No, a lot of them aren't.
No, we're not. All right, Seveso, part 2.
Part 2. All right, we're going to enter into some of the toxicology profile. It's important to understand no matter what chemical that you're dealing with, you need to understand the toxicology of the chemical. It's important to understand the toxicology of the chemical because ultimately we need to be able to apply that to our prediction models and then to be able to do a risk versus reward analysis, right? If I've got a massive leak of a chemical and it's pumping out at 1,000 pounds per minute of this tank in gaseous form, I need to know what are my impacts, right? Because if it turns out my impact is it's steam and it has no toxic effects whatsoever, then I don't even have a reason to be there. So toxicology plays a role. So what are some of the toxicology profiles for this chemical, this TCDD? Elevated mortality. Did you say? Yeah.
No.
Oh, okay. Elevated mortality rates from cardiovascular and respiratory diseases were discovered, along with an increase in diabetes. Follow-up studies on cancer incidence and mortality revealed higher rates of gastrointestinal and lymphatic hematomatic cancers, which kind of makes sense because, you're talking about a lot of the fat-based soluble chemicals, and that's kind of where they tend to end up. These results could not be considered conclusive, however, because of several limitations, including the absence of individual exposure data. So they really don't know what each person was technically exposed to. The brief latency period considered and the small population size for certain types of cancer. So because there wasn't this tremendous, 4, 5, 6,000 people exposure, statistically, your population, your sample size is limited, making the studies not that they're not relevant, but they're not as hard evidence conclusive as they could be.
Now, fast forward to 2001, and there was a study done that affirmed that the carcinogenic nature of the dioxin in humans and continued its leak to cardiovascular and endocrine disorders following the Seveso disaster. Now, in a further update in 2009, which extended the study period to include 5 additional years up to 1996, noted an increase in neoplasms of the lymphatic and hematopoietic tissue, as well as breast cancer. And I will say, tell me if I'm wrong about this, but this, for a little bit more local flavor, East Palestine, that train derailment that happened in Ohio a year or two ago, that had dioxins in some way.
It did.
And we did a couple of episodes on that back in the day. So if you go back in the archives, you can find them.
And to go super hyper local, Long Island is a huge breast cancer hotspot for the world. And interestingly enough, a lot of our groundwater has been polluted by dioxins. And, it's addressed now, but it wasn't addressed 50 years ago. And so the kids that grew up in the 50s and the 60s on Long Island, there's a huge spike in breast cancer among that age population.
Yep.
In 2008, a study was initiated trying to investigate the impact of the material of the exposure of dioxins on neonatal thyroid function. Why they would randomly select that? Anyway, so weird. It concluded that environmental contaminations like dioxins could have lasting effects on neonatal thyroid functions long after the initial exposure.
Now, research also indicated that male children born to mothers who were pregnant during the Seveso disaster and exposed to high levels of dioxin exhibited lower than average sperm counts. This
Especially the women.
From the Seveso. Yes. The Seveso studies is one of the most significant evidences that prenatal exposure to environmental chemicals can reduce your sperm count.
Yeah, so here, we can look back now and be like, okay, well, that makes sense. Yeah, we understand that chemicals affect pregnant women. But back in the 70s, again, a lot of this science was new. It was emerging. So we can take a look at these disasters that happened all the way from the 20s through the 70s, and we can see what the impact was because they didn't know enough to know to protect themselves from it. Right. A whole generation of guinea pigs. All right. Less important, the environmental impact. Persistence, right? Due to the chemical stability and fat solubility, TCDD persists in the environment for many, many years, making it long-term contamination of the soil and the water ecosystem an absolute nightmare.
Yeah, and also bioaccumulation, which we mentioned, I believe, last episode. It accumulates in the fatty tissues of animals and humans, leading to potential long-term health effects through the food chain.
Yeah. Do you remember growing up when they got, I think it was DEET? DEET or DET? Yeah. They were trying to get that out of the pesticide or the mosquito world because it was killing the bugs. The bugs were being eaten by the birds or the fish, and then we were eating the birds and the fish, and there was this whole food chain exposure. So similar, we see similar patterns across the board as we look at our growth and knowledge of chemicals.
It also melted the straps on your backpack. Just saying.
Did it really?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I remember that.
That's awesome. Imagine what it's doing to the insects if it's melting backpack straps.
You'd see the threads coming out of your backpack. You're like, oh, that guy's got DEET on.
All right.
Yeah.
So how did this end up changing legislation? How did this end up changing safety protocols? Perhaps the most direct and significant legislative outcome was this in the Seveso disaster was the Seveso directives by the European community, which is now the European Union, in 1982. The directive was specifically designed to prevent and control the risk associated with major industrial accidents involving dangerous substance. Here are a few key aspects of that directive.
Yeah, so risk management. The directive required companies handling hazardous chemicals to create and implement a major accident prevention policy and safety management system. So they basically had to do a plan. This, again, 1976, this wasn't a thing.
This was a big deal. I mean, when we think, that OSHA for HAZWOPER only really came around in the mid 80s, right? They're doing the same thing. And if we look at OSHA's HAZWOPER, it's probably going to be very close to this. You have your community right to know. You have the companies being told, listen, you have to have safety plans and management systems. Like, all of these things are going to be very congruent for the time frame. Land use planning. It's introduced to to put controls on lands around the sites containing large quantities of hazardous materials to reduce that risk of, hey, if there is a release, what is going to be the impact? We see this in the United States with mixed results, right? We've had a couple of different studies, one of them specifically on the West Texas explosion with the ammonium nitrate. And one of the things that we discovered in going through that is there is very little ammonium nitrate regulations as far as the population growing around these facilities. So land use, we have them for certain chemicals. Some chemicals they're laxed on, but we see that same kind of thing with the EPA and the community right to know that grows in the United States at the same time frame as well.
Right. And also information and participation. So not only do we have to, the directive emphasized the importance of transparency, mandating that information about potential risks be made public, which is in the United States, the right to know, right? And that local communities should be involved in the planning and decision-making process. Now, I'm not saying that every Sam, Joe, and Harry that lives in the community has the right to inspect documents, but their representatives can start putting some pressure on those people and making legislative type things. And not to get too politicky, but this is the methodology of the democratic system, is that you can put pressure on things to do these kind of things. And this is honestly one of those things that is a major positive thing that came out of this.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't think in the United States it gets used as much as it should. And, we can sit here and we can identify, we could say, oh, this would be like an LEPC, right? Your local emergency planning commission. However, time and time again, we talk with a lot of departments because they're trying to make their team better. We do the consulting work with them. We check out their area and we ask them, okay, where's your commodity flow? Can you get that for us? And they're like, no, where do we get that? I go, all right, go through your LEPC. And they go, yeah, our LEPC is like our division chief, and I don't even think he knows he's the LEPC. Right. Or, it's a group and they're like, yeah, they haven't met in like 19 years. So we have the structure to implement these things. Unfortunately, we don't, the system breaks down on the local level where they're just, some of them are great, right? Some LEPCs are really strong. They do great work. Some of them are not. So try to reach out to your LEPC and find out what power do they have and how involved are they on the things like the tier 2 reporting, your commodity flow sheet, and then ultimately helping to plan the emergency response. Because emergency planning is absolutely part of what you should be doing, and it was identified in this document as something that should happen, where companies are required to develop not only internal but also external emergency plans to ensure prompt and effective responses to the accident. Well, you can't create an external emergency plan unless you have somebody on the outside that you're coordinating that with.
I like that. Then they had the subsequent amendments and updates, and the original Seveso directive has been updated and expanded several times to cover more chemicals and refine safety requirements, because hazmat changes, industry changes, needs of the community change. And so these updates include the Seveso 2 directive, very original, and in 1996, and then the Get Ready Seveso 3 directive in 2012.
Well, I'm glad they named it 3, because according to their I was expecting
R.
Right.
Yeah, or like 12. But each enhancing the scope and the depth of regulations based on new knowledge, technologies, and extending the public rights to regarding environmental and safety information. These are all positive things.
Yeah, and like so many of the larger disasters, this also had some influence on the international standards as well. The directive influenced international standards and laws concerning the chemical safety. These included improvements in risk management, methodologies, emergency response strategies, public communication, right? I mean, we definitely identified a couple of public communication issues regarding chemical risk and release. Outside of the European Union, a lot of countries have adopted similar regulations. We talked about that already before, which really underscored the global impact of this disaster on enhancing industrial safety.
Now, beyond the legal challenges, the Seveso disaster spurred a shift in corporate culture towards greater safety consciousness in the chemical industry, and companies became more proactive in identifying and managing the risks associated with hazardous materials, partly in response to the stricter regulatory environment and also due to increased public and stakeholder scrutiny. Now, I have a little bonus that I would like to throw in on this that I didn't know when. I have it in my notepad, but our good friend Ron Huffman, who we love and know, and if you don't know who he is the guy that puts out the seriously best propane products I have ever seen. And he's constantly innovating. His new training product, I don't want to give out, is going to be insane. It's honestly going to change a lot of operations for people. I don't want to, it's his to let go, but my head blew up. But anyway, he said, I should put this out to the people because this is a good information. He says he bought some tape, some pipe thread tape.
Oh, like Teflon?
Like a Teflon tape, right? And he said that on the website that the tape is good for 10,000 PSI. Okay. He gets the tape in hand, and on the side of it, it says UL tested to 100 PSI. And he's like, that's weird. Why is there two different numbers? And so this is his PSI to the PSA, not PSI. This is his PSA to the group. He says manufacturers test internally, maybe even externally with a third party, up to a limit. But UL can only put their certificate on for what they tested it to. And in that case, UL tested to 100 PSI, didn't go 150, didn't go 200, didn't go 1,000. So they will not certify, not say it goes up to that. It very well may, but UL did not do it.
So I wonder from like a legal point of view, if you were to, you see that on the website, 10,000, you go to use it and something happens, are they able to turn around and go, yeah, no, UL only rated it to that, but who is UL compared to another third-party tester?
You know what? All I'll say is based upon what he told me, I would, if I was the guy, I'd be like, your mileage may vary. 100 is like, I have a seal of approval on it. And it's the manufacturer saying due to go up to 10,000, which is like, wow, that's a lot of wiggle room there. Yeah.
I wonder if UL is like ProBoard, where they just convinced everybody that they're important, but they're just another private industry, a private, Do you know what I mean? And I'm not
I think
bashing
UL
UL.
is actually
I'm
legit.
just
I
curious.
think UL is legit.
Is it a government body?
They're government.
They are
Pro
government.
Board is a little bit more of a racket.
Right. Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt.
Oh. We'll come back to that at a later time.
We'll come back to that.
Let you more. Goodbye, guys.